says. And I'm just delighted to be here with everybody. Welcome, everybody. I can't hug you or shake your hands, but I'm ever so grateful to be together as we are. The Roaring Brook Lake Properties Organization, for those of us who may be new to the community or not know, has been coming together every summer for the last 72 years. And we're very glad that Zoom allows us to continue that chain this year. We meet today at a time of unprecedented stress and sadness. We are stressed by our isolation and by the difficulty of carrying out our life's daily tasks. Those in our community who work in essential services take extraordinary risks every day to keep us fed, protect our safety, and save our lives sometimes. Many here grieve for friends and relatives lost during this time. We all grieve for the more than 100,000 Americans who have fallen to COVID-19. Finally, the cracks opened by the pandemic have exposed the daily pain inflicted by racism, injustice, and hatred. We grieve for all in our country who do not have equal opportunity, and we suffer with those who suffer. For those who are new to the community, you may be a little confused about what this organization, RBLPOA, is. It's a volunteer organization that is advisory and a liaison to the town of Putnam Valley. The RBLPOA does not make or enforce any rules or laws. Elected officials of our government, like our guests, Sam Oliverio, our supervisor, and Wendy Wetzel, one of our town board members, and the governor and all of our elected officials are the ones who make those rules. Basically, we are advisory to those elected officials. So why join the POA? Why participate in it? The more people who participate in the organization, the more who volunteer and are active in it, the more we can accomplish to protect the health of our lake and our environment and the quality of our lives. If we don't care what happens to this beautiful lake, nobody else will either. Specifically, we are not so naive as to think that the lake will take care of itself. Left on its own, a lake will become a wetland, and a wetland will become a forest. The more development around a lake, the faster that process moves. Our septic systems, our roads, our lawns, and our homes all stress the lake. Through them, we increase the amount of nutrient pollutants entering the lake, which in turn nourish the lake weeds and the toxic algae growth. It is in our power to mitigate the stress. How? In your very own properties, we should all care for our septic systems. Most of us pumped in what I call the year of the septic trucks, 2017. While pumping every 5 years is mandated in the town, and we have Sam to thank for that, every 2 or 3 years, especially if you have lakefront or live on a stream, is best practice. So we're up to the 3-year time if you pumped like a lot of people in 2017. Second, manage stormwater on your property. Plant buffer plantings along the lakefront and the streams. Plant rain gardens or use rain barrels to manage roof runoff. Shrink your lawn. Don't dump your yard waste in our wetlands. They are the filters of the lake. Plant trees, and please, please don't cut down healthy trees in our environment. In addition, we ask you to learn about the lake and about how to care for it. In exactly 2 weeks, on Saturday, June 20th at 10 a.m., we will have another RBL district-wide virtual meeting to hear from our lake manager, AJ Reyes. Come, listen to what he's learned about the lake. Listen to his thoughts and ideas about how to manage our lake in the next year, the next 2 years, and the next 10 years. You don't have to write this down. I'll be sending plenty of notices. We have several volunteer opportunities this summer. We will be starting an invasive plant task force focused primarily on Oriental bittersweet, purple loosestrife, multiflora rose, garlic mustard, and stiltgrass. Anyone is welcome to volunteer. For our high school and college students who may not have summer jobs that they were counting on, we will have some stipends of $500 to $1,000 for young people to work on these task forces. There'll be more RBLPOA meetings coming up this summer, probably virtual, but if we can, we're certainly going to meet in person.
Did you make a berry box for yourself? Okay.
Stay tuned to your emails and to the website. Let me know what you'd like to hear about. Now, before I introduce our town supervisor, Sam Oliverio, I'd like to attend to some housekeeping. As you can see, all your microphones are muted. You can unmute them by pressing the spacebar button, but I'm going to ask you not to do that until Sam has finished his talk. It's just too many people to have people talking back and forth and to interrupt. He likes to be interrupted, but I think today it'll be more organized if we wait. So hold your questions. When he finishes talking, then what will happen is that there are ways to raise your hand virtually on the Zoom, but they're difficult to access. The easiest way is probably if you go into the chat box and just put, I have a question or question mark. Those chat boxes will be attended to by Mike and myself. We'll call on people and unmute your microphone, but please be respectful, speak briefly, and come to the point. And we are going to be taking both questions and comments, and Sam is going to be watching the time as well so that we don't get bogged down and that we do get time to answer your questions and hear your comments. I think that's important to him and to us. So, Sam Oliverio. Well, Sam Oliverio is a lifelong resident of Roaring Brook Lake, and he's its biggest fan. He's been supervisor of our town since January of 2016, and he's accomplished an enormous amount in those 4.5 years. First of all, I'd like to mention that there are over 1,000 acres in the town of land that was scheduled for development, which is now forever wild. These include the Catholic Youth Organization, a large tract of land which is now available to our kids as a summer camp and to our population for hiking and actually for the indoor resources as well. Number 2 is the Granite Mountain Preserve, which is a beautiful, beautiful area right in the center of town and which will be preserved forever wild and was absolutely slated for development. And finally, our very own HYH, which is 235 acres of really pristine land that abuts on our lake. So this preserving of land is the first thing I would like to note that Sam has accomplished for us. The second thing is that while septic systems are a big threat to our lake, there had not been attention to them until this supervisor. And Sam instituted the first mandated septic pump out for all of the lake communities that's been attracted attention to the septic systems. I believe that many of the septic systems had not been pumped in many years around our lake. We had 80% of our population, of our residents, responded to that mandate and pumped their septic systems during that 1 year in 2017. If you haven't pumped your system since 17, think about doing it this year. It's been 3 years, and we're all using our septic systems more heavily than we had previously. The third thing that I'd like to mention is that we hadn't had a lake management plan in over 20 years. So the lake had been left to care for itself over that period of time. And we have now, we did a little stumbling at the beginning, but under Sam's direction, we now have a lake manager, AJ Reyes. He's fantastic. He's going to be speaking to us in 2 weeks. I really, really urge you to come. And I think this is going to make a tremendous difference to our community and to the quality of the lake. And I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sam. And I think I'm looking forward to it. Hi, Sam.
How you doing, Ina? Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And it's good to see so many friends here today. I'm so impressed by the amount of people on this Zoom meeting, which seems to be the new normal, in quotes. Let's hope eventually it doesn't stay the new normal. I much prefer being up at Children's Beach, as we have done in previous years, speaking to all of you. I love that area. I love how beautiful it is. This will have to do for today. I have a lot of topics I want to discuss. The first, of course, is the impact of the virus upon all of us. Town Hall just this past Monday opened up with a full staff, but we are only accepting people for business, town business, through appointment. And you can call any of our departments, set up a time, and we are now screening via a TV screen that's set in the supervisor's office, each individual that comes to the door. You must have a mask, facial covering. I prefer a bandana myself. Many people seem to like that as well. And you can come in and any business that is necessary, wedding certificates, fishing licenses, building permits, things like that, we are now on board fully. The only thing that we are unable to provide for the public is the courts. Our local courts still have not been approved to be open by the regional district. That impacts us all. You get a speeding ticket, whatever. Though the state is being very lenient with that, understanding that the local courts are not really fully open yet. We hope to have them up and running by July 1st. They don't come under my jurisdiction, unfortunately, because I would have brought everybody back and do it very safely and certainly with the mitigations that are involved in dealing with COVID-19. This virus has knocked us all for a loop. It really has. It has stressed us. And then coupled with that, as Ina said, is that horrific murder of George Floyd, with just ignited what I feel is almost a replay of 1968. I was 15 years old, but I can tell you that the civil rights movement and the Tet Offensive and the Vietnam War and the assassination of Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy, and then the Democratic Convention with the riots in Chicago left an indelible impression on my mind. And it almost feels like a fast back track to that time again. There's a lot of unrest and understandably so. What has been allowed to happen in this country over these years, and I used to think that, oh, civil rights has been taken care of with all the movements and the civil rights acts that have been passed. Well, it hasn't. We still exhibit a great deal of racism in this country, and it needs to be eradicated. And God bless those people who are holding the line, not the rioters, not the ones destroying property, but those individuals who are out there protesting peacefully, making it clear that this cannot go on any longer. That has also impacted us. You know, you see a higher presence of our sheriff's department and things like that. It's this year will go down in the history books. I promise you that. But let's talk about Roaring Brook Lake. First off, I just want to give a caution. Up at Children's Beach, you have that little boat dock right alongside of the Children's Beach area. That has been quadrangled off. There are loose planks in that. We're getting somebody to fix it next week. So please stay away from that little boat dock up there. Also, I want to reinforce, no dogs are allowed on a public beach. Our beaches can be closed down by the Department of Health if a dog goes anywhere near there. Whether that is number one or number two, it doesn't matter. Dogs are not allowed on the beach. Now, I love my pup Memphis, who's asleep behind me, but I make it a point not to go anywhere where the public is going to gather. I bring them up in the woods. We hike. We do a lot of things on trails, and that's fine. And I always bring, you know, the little cleanup bag. But regardless, it is. I mean, I can't stress it enough. The Department of Health, especially with the health concerns that are so rampant today, they are not allowed on the beach. If you see anybody with a dog, please remind them you cannot be here. If they give you a hard time and you know who it is, give my office a call. We will get the Mary Matson, our game control person, to speak to them. And if they still refuse, they can be brought to court. It is that important. No animals should be on the public beach where humans sit and kids frolic and have fun. So I need to stress that very much. That is a state regulation and a Department of Health regulation. Septic pump outs. As Ina said, about 80% did pump their septics, but there's 20% that have been lingering. Not all of the 20%, many of them have since corrected that and pumped their septics, but we are sending out our notifications. And the way this works is that if you have not pumped your septic in the past 5 years, you will receive a note from us, from the town, stating that you have 90 days to do it. If we don't have proof that you pumped it within the 90 days, we will send you another notice for a court appearance. The fine for this is $1,000 right out of the gate. Please pump your septic. It's a lot cheaper to pay $240 to pump your septic out than $1,000 on a fine. And again, we give 90-day leeway. We understand. We haven't sent these letters out. They're all prepared. We're ready to go, but I wanted to wait till things settled down at least until we enter into phase 2, which our region, our area is going into phase 2 effective this Tuesday. So within a week or two, we're sending those letters out. Certainly people did not need to be stressed over pumping septics in the midst of this chaos that COVID-19 has caused. So if you receive the letter, it's not hostile. It just reminds you, you need to pump it, but that there are serious consequences if you don't. You have a 90-day window. So please, if you have not pumped it, expect that letter, and we'll move forward from there. The health of the lake is so paramount and so important. Your community is what it is, and as attractive as it is because of that lake. We need to preserve it. And this is a key #1 way to do that. As simple as calling Cook or any of the other companies to come in and pump that septic, and you're good for another few years. Taconic State Parkway. As you noticed, they have finally laid the girders on top of the supports. They are ahead of schedule by about 4 months right now, believe it or not. So we're hoping to see it open next spring. That would be spring of 2021. They are moving very rapidly. I know there have been a lot of complaints about blasting. I have spoken to the state. I've spoken to Jimmy, their foreman, and their public relations person numerous times. Individuals have reached out personally to me when they have blasted using, I mean, a copious amount of gunpowder or whatever it is that they use to shatter those rocks. They did that a couple of times. They have calmed it down. I said, look, do small blasting as opposed to one massive one. You are shaking homes, and I fear for the dam. So they have been in agreement, and it's been better. Though every time a big blast goes, somebody contacts me, I will go and again, well, not harass, but certainly make them understand that that's not the way they need to do their due diligence on this project. It is moving along. It's going to be done within a little bit over a year. So keep our fingers crossed that the weather stays good and they can progress. As you noticed, they already have the ramp moving off of Wikipedia Road onto the southern portion of the Taconic. They've already laid that out. They're working on the ramp. You can see all the fill they're putting in on the side where the wetlands used to be. By the way, every single square foot of wetland that is displaced by the creation of the ramps will be recreated further down or either south or north of where they're putting this. That is part of the DEC requirements and the Department of Environmental Protection as well. New York City's watershed, though it's not directly there, a lot of the water feeds in to part of the watershed out of Wikipedia and things like that. So the company is fully aware of this, and the state has been down quite a few times to make sure that they are doing what they need to do. So knock wood, that overpass, which all of you have fought very hard for so many years, is finally being completed, and I hope to see it done. The latest would be by next summer. They're making great progress, as you can see every time you go past there. Other issues I'd like to bring up, harmful algae blooms. You've had a couple already, believe it or not. The weather, it has not been conducive to a pristine lake surface. We have these flash floods, these massive downpours that just loosen up whatever sediment is along the side of the lake. And if there are faulty septics, boy, that gets pumped right into your lake. And then, of course, the algae feed. And if it's warm like it is today, that sun just nourishes them and they blossom. So unless there's remediation, that will occur. Now, we've been on top of it. Ina's been great. AJ Riaz, your lake manager, has been great in reporting it to the DEC for note, because they need to know where these blooms are occurring. I do have to tell you that so far, Lake Peekskill, where they installed that aeration system with the biological agents, they have not had any blooms. Lake Oscawana has had one bloom, which they have had none the past few years. So that's the intensity of the weather, though. And that affects everybody, including the natural lake, Lake Oscawana, which normally has no blooms whatsoever. So it is to be expected when you see it. If you can report it, to my office, and it's easy, 526-2121, or Ina, we will contact AJ and also the DEC, who needs to know. Also, our Department of Health is notified. That's a matter of fact. The Department of Health is the agency that closes our beaches if they see a threat of the blue-green algae. And I want to stress, deaths to humans, very, very rare, if at all. But this stuff is poisonous to any of your pets. Your dog goes and swims in there, and again, it should not be in that lake. But if, sometimes they get out, they get themselves in the water, they can die from that. And it's a tragic, terrible death. This is, and the algae will also make you very, very ill. It may not kill you, but boy, you would feel the effects of it. This stuff is dangerous. So please, if there is a beach closing because of that, it's done for your safety. It is something we don't want to play with. And the Department of Health is very good. I have a great relationship with Vinny Perron, who is our oversight manager. And he looks out for that quite a bit. There has been some occurrence of abandoned boats and other apparatus around the lake. That concerns me. It concerns many of the residents. The town cannot remove that. You're a separate district and a private district. The town is unable. It's called gifting. It's always a frustrating thing with me because I feel the town is there to service everybody. But the law makes it very clear that you cannot give special treatment to one area and not to all the others, which in turn, you're using taxpayer dollars to clean up an area. But we can hire individuals to haul that stuff out at a big discount. The town has arrangements with various haulers and stuff. We can remove that, or if volunteers wish to do it. If there's an abandoned boat and that thing is full of water, I don't care who owns it. You have the right to call us. We will arrange somebody to pick it up and haul it out of there. At this point in time, if it's been sitting there for a while, and some of these boats have resurfaced over the summer, and they're up against the shore and things, and they're a nuisance. They'll attract mosquitoes. It's a perfect breeding place for mosquitoes, and they just look awful. They're terrible. So if you give my office a call, we'll arrange to have somebody haul it out of there unless the volunteers can do it. It is not a good idea to have those abandoned wrecks anywhere along your shoreline. So I just want to briefly discuss that. Your lake, other than these few blooms, and they're not huge, please don't misconstrue what I said earlier. They are not enormous, but they are localized in some areas. But your lake, I was up there just this past week on Thursday to look at the overflow of the dam. By the way, you are very high right now, which is understandable, the water level. We've gotten a lot of these flash floods that drop an enormous amount of water in a very short amount of time, an inch or two the past couple of weeks. So the water is a bit higher, but it is overflowing, which it is supposed to do. I'm reluctant to open the valve, and I know I've been requested by a few individuals to do that, to drain it. We're going to get into a hot spell. And the one thing you don't want is your coves to be, again, just a mud-covered wetlands. And that's what could happen if we open that valve too much, lower the water too much so that it's no longer overflowing, the dam slip, then we're in trouble. So I believe strongly that we need to maintain the course and keep the water level where it is, because I guarantee you we're going to hit some dry spells in the next month or two. They're predicting 80-degree weather this week. The following week, it kind of moderates a little bit, and it moderates earlier in the week, but later in the week, it goes back up. And all you need is a couple of 80-degree days, and that water evaporates very, very quickly. So, and anybody who's been in my office will see the picture I have of Roaring Brook the year you had no water in your coves. It's devastating. It's tree stump city. That's all you see. And on my watch, I never want to see that happen again. Much better for the life forms, your flora and fauna, to have that water in there at the proper level, and it will equalize. It will equalize. That's about the updates that I have for you, and I'll be happy to take any questions you may have. Ina, I think you're on mute. I can't hear you, Ina.
Floor is open to questions. Please let me know if you have a question, and I'm going to unmute you. You can, okay. Kay is raising her hand, and that's perfectly good, but there are people who are on the second page of my, Mike, can you help me with Kay's microphone?
I can unmute myself.
There you
Okay.
go.
There you go.
Oh, right, there are questions on the chat.
Okay, my question is about Spur Beach. I know it's not open right now, but however, we sit there, or people sit there, no one's really going in the water, but there's garbages there. And the garbage smells so bad. It's getting worse and worse. There's diapers in there. The recycle bin is filled with water. Can we just remove the garbage bins and people just take their stuff and carry it out?
We're not able
Garbage there at all?
we're not able to remove the garbage bins or any of the Department of Health requirements, and that is a requirement down there. We did send people down to clear it out. It should be cleared now. If not, I'll get on that Monday. But every beach has to have some type of garbage disposal, also a porta potty or a bathroom available.
Monday, when the garbage, I'll drag it out myself and bring it to the curb for Monday's pickup. Are we allowed to do that?
They're supposed to pick it up themselves, Kay. I will get on that. No problem. The beach has gone through a lot of turmoil, as you well know, And finally, we had the Department of Health agree to open it. I do not want to risk them shutting it down again. So
Okay,
Raise your hand, right?
thank you.
Yes. Oh, no.
Sam, isn't that the lake superintendent supposed to pull out the garbage bins? Isn't that
the company, last year, we were having difficulty with that. And we told the company, go down and pick it up. Go to the road. You have more than enough turnaround space there. And they're supposed to do that. If not, we can have the lake superintendent pull them up, but that really is not part of the lake superintendent's position. We pay a lot of money to AAA to deal with this, and they need to do what they're supposed to do.
I see Ed Melnick has a question on the chat box. Ed, do you want to ask that? Push your space bar.
Yeah, okay.
There you go.
I'm just wondering, Sam, if there have been any discussions within the town about regulating Airbnb or anticipating increased use of Airbnb and so forth.
Good question, Ed, and it's a topic that, as you know, we held a public hearing for it. We had both sides come out and force those in favor, those against. My own personal feeling, and this is just mine, it does not reflect the board, is I would like to do away with them completely. I am very uncomfortable with Airbnbs, and I have seen them literally transform communities from residential into rentals, and it occurs widespread. Plus the controls on it right now, there are none. You know, people tell me, well, they control themselves. There's a rating system for the renter and a rating system for the individuals who put it out there. That doesn't hold water, because we have had 2 or 3 distinct incidences in the past couple of years where the renters didn't care what their rating was and they trashed the place. We had to close a road down, Tyler Road off of Peekskill Hollow, because an Airbnb event went south. They clogged the road. They were drunk. It was a bacchanalia, and we had to get the sheriffs there. And the owner could not be found. Of course, the owner was very apologetic later on, paid some fines to the town because it was destruction on the road where people took their motorcycles and were just spinning wheels and dug gullies into Tyler Road. These things really concern me. I feel that's the easiest path to take. They're not allowed, period. If we see you're doing it, you get fined, end of story. The board does not reflect that like mine that I have. So I'm still negotiating. In the midst of this virus, there have been so many other things that we've had to deal with that kind of got backburnered. We want to bring it forward. I want to bring it forward. And hopefully towards the end of the summer, we can reintroduce this topic. I need people who are opposed to this to come out and force. I'm sure there are many of you that are in support of Airbnb, and that's what a democracy is all about. But I think truly they're much more destructive than constructive to any community.
Yeah.
That's my own personal feeling.
And I would just add, I bring it up because the quality of life issues that we're talking about dumping, about dogs on the beach, about overcrowding, about people leaving trash.
Right.
We have a place here in Puerto Rico and it allows Airbnb, and I've seen happen exactly what you're talking about. There's a loss of community, there's a loss of control, and although many people are respectful, it's not their property, and especially since we have such a fragile and important ecological system going on, that I think the risk is tremendous. So anything I can do to help, I'm happy to help you with.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you. It will be coming back up, not right now, but it will in the next month or 2.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I see Meg has her hand up.
Go ahead.
I don't either.
Question?
Go ahead, Meg.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm alive. Sorry, I had the same question about Airbnb. I think COVID should bring it very much to the forefront. We don't need to have strangers coming from areas that might be more infected than we are here. I know even years ago when my daughter was a lifeguard on the beach, I'm talking 3 or 4 years ago, the pudding pad, which is owned by a businessman who owns many Airbnbs. None of them are where he lives, as far as I know. And those people realize that they can come up from Manhattan just for the day. They can come up from the Bronx just for the day. So they're not even renting it, and they're coming and using our beaches, which has
Right.
been an issue as well. But I think COVID shouldn't delay it. It should bring it to the forefront because it's exposure.
I understand. We have 4 major issues that we need to address right now. We will be having public hearings on them. It's some changes to our zoning code that are necessary. We're also looking at a prolonged 5-year contract with our fire department as we move into the future. So fiscally, they know what they're doing financially, and we know what we're doing financially for the next 5 years. We also have what I think is very necessary is a moratorium on any large green energy project. I don't know if you know, but the state, with their budget, passed a regulation that allows the state to come in, much like cell towers, and say, we're going to decimate this mountain of private property. It's owned by a private individual, and we're going to allow the windmills or solar panels to be erected there and no say of the town. The only recourse we have is to pass a moratorium on that, denying anybody to come forward with a project request that will deforest or destroy our scenic area until we can find a more suitable location, as we did with the cell tower when they wanted to put it in the middle of our town park. We fought it, and we put it by our highway garage, which really is out of the way. It doesn't affect anybody. It's way in the back of our town hall campus. That's really important to us, this green energy moratorium. And it's only on large project. It does not affect your home. Solar panels still can go on the roof of your house. It's megawatt. It's huge megawatt producers. And there are a couple of individuals who want to do that. My great fear is Piano Mountain, which is the opposite range from Granite. There's an individual that has about 200 acres there, and he's looking to do these windmills on the ridge. Certainly they would work. He's high up and it's unobstructed. But the devastation that will cause to the forest and the flora and fauna, I don't want to see that happen as long as I'm in this office. So that's a major thing. And finally, we realize the state is going to legalize marijuana and perhaps some other drugs for recreational use. God bless them, they can do that. But I'm very concerned. We're a closed community. We don't have a main street. We don't have a city here. So we want to do a law prohibiting any type of legalized, controlled, it would be controlled, but legalized substance in our town, except for medicinal uses. And the pharmacists that we have in town would handle that. And they're already covered. But we don't want them in our community. And you want to go to Westchester or Connecticut, fine, that's fine. But here in Putnam Valley, we're too small. We have schools spread out all over the place, houses of worship. I don't think it's conducive to allow those in here. So those 4 items have been taking up a lot of time. And we're doing things by Zoom, which I love it, but it's not the same as sitting there in person and having the public bounce things off you. So it's taken a little bit of time. Airbnb is huge. We will address Airbnb, but I need to handle these 4 major issues prior to that. The zoning codes that we need to change, one of them concern a almost 300-acre lot that has been decimated with pollution. And we need to have this individual who owns that property finally do the right thing and clean the enormous amount of acreage that he has destroyed by illegally dumping. And these agricultural changes in our law will help us do that. So there's a lot of things that are going on that most of you probably have not heard about. A lot of it has been done in executive session, but now we're moving forward and discussing these items at our meetings. And our next meeting is this Wednesday. It will be at Town Hall, believe it or not. We've spread out the courtroom to accommodate 10 individuals. That's all we can under law. The public is not able to participate, though any questions you may have, you can always send them to our office. Our emails are on our webpage, putnamvalley.com. That's it, putnamvalley.com. You come right to our town webpage. So we're going to discuss these. Once these are out of the way, I promise, Meg, Airbnb is next on the agenda.
Sam, Regina has a question.
Yeah, actually, if you go in the chat, Sam, there's a number of different questions. Maybe we could clear some of them up. Go up to Joel, I think, and start your way down.
Okay. Let's see. Where am I?
So I think, Joel, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, that would be good.
Push your
If,
space bar.
if
and
somebody
ask.
can review that, because
Yes, I'm keeping an eye on it, and
Okay,
I think it's
good.
hard for
Thank
you
you.
to read while you're
yeah,
on the
it
podium.
is a little bit.
So Joel, do you want to make your question? Okay, I'm going to come back to Regina right now, and then we'll pick up the other people. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Joel's on
okay.
board.
Joel's on.
Can you hear me?
We can
Yeah,
hear
go
you.
ahead, Joel.
Oh, okay. I just asked for a short outline of what the duties of the lake superintendent are.
The lake superintendent is there to make sure, number one, the beaches are in order each time. The superintendent inspects them prior to the lifeguards coming on board. They make sure the lifeguards are there. They make sure the equipment is there. They work with the Department of Health to make sure that we're above board for all their requirements. They also are responsible for screening individuals who may not be part of the Roaring Brook Lake District. Now, how would they know that? They don't know everybody. I'm sure any resident at Roaring Brook doesn't know everybody. But whenever they are asked by the lifeguard or somebody, hey, I don't think this person's a resident, it is their position to go forward and say, listen, do you live here? If you don't, I'm sorry, you have to leave the beach. They are not a policing agent. If the person says, yeah, I live here, I don't have my address or anything, too bad, they contact me and we follow up on that. But their basic responsibility is the maintenance and the insurance that the beaches are open when they're supposed to be open and staffed with whom they're supposed to be staffed by.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Joe. Regina, you had a question?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to add on to that one too. Years ago, many years ago, when we moved in, we all had beach tags that we had to have on us when we went to any of the beaches, and that seemed like a pretty good way to monitor, who lives here and who doesn't. Just very easy to get from the lake, steward there. But my other question is, and it's not that important in the grand scheme of everything going on, but we have a lot more people now that are out and walking, especially because they feel cooped up. And the proper way to walk around the lake, that you walk against traffic, not with it, can
Right.
help as far as when we're all trying to keep our distance from each other, which is, a challenge if you have to now cross the street or, and I know on certain parts of the lake, you have blind spots where you may have to cross over to the other side. But I'll design it. Could we have some signage up on a couple of telephone poles that say, walk against traffic?
We can do that.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, we can do that. That's not difficult.
It just might help to keep the flow of everything going nicely and help people social distance and
Sure.
still enjoy being outside.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. That's easy.
We have about 5 more minutes, so if we can take a couple of questions. Zach had an interesting question. Do you want to ask that one, Zach?
Yes, unmuted.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Hold on. I just wanted to go over the algae thing again.
Yeah.
I guess there's like a multi-part question, which is, you know, how are we sort of like, you know, we're seeing different algae kind of fairly often. Who do we call? How does it get tested? And I think a bigger question is that there's probably more of us living here full time right now because of COVID. You know, that's probably going to impact the amount of runoff and things like that.
Right.
What preventative measures can, like, I don't live on the lake, I live across the street. What can we do to sort of help with that? Because I feel like that, you know, we have a 2-year-old, we don't want her to get sick.
The biggest thing, Zach, is pumping the septic tanks, really, more than anything else.
Yep.
Can't help nature and the runoffs that occur with a heavy downpour. When rain drops an inch or two in an hour, everything that's on the surface is carried right into your lake, from the streams, from the rain itself, and that contributes. That's why there's been so much bloom lately, and we realize that. The biggest concern with the HAB is that the Department of Health is only and can only legally be responsible for your beach areas. My concern is the entire lake. There are only, you know, a few beaches that you have, Moon, Park, Spur, you know, where the public gathers, and, you know, and Children's. You have so much more area that the Department of Health is not in charge of. The DEC is, though, and they will take an interest in that. You have a lake manager now, Zach, who's excellent. And the company that AJ Reyes works for is excellent. They were the ones who years ago recommended to Lake Peekskill, you know, to do various things, and Lake Peekskill followed with that, and they're doing very well this year. The same agency that's working with your lake is working with Lake Oscawana. They're going to make some recommendations, and Ina alluded to that. You may want to talk some more, Ina, about it, where the lake manager, AJ Reyes, will talk to the community in a couple of weeks to explain what he's found and what he thinks may help in the long run. You got to remediate. Just pumping septics, I got to tell you, is not enough. Nature is trying to win this war of, you know, causing the lake, as Ina said before, to become a wetlands, because that's the natural progression of any lake. I go to the Adirondacks quite a bit, and ponds that I recall as a child are no longer there. You know, small lakes that I used to canoe on and stuff are no longer there. They're swamps, they're wetlands. And that's not having houses around. I mean, these are in the middle of the wilderness. But nature, dropping leaves, you know, dead animals, things like that, eventually overtake, you know, and overtake the lake's health, and it's a natural progression. Ina, you may want to talk about AJ's meeting again.
So I'm going to bring this to a close because I think it's hard to ask people to stay on a virtual meeting for such a long time. I'm sorry that we got started late, but we had trouble with the technology. So the first thing I'm going to say is thank you very much to everybody for coming. Thank you so much, Sam Oliverio, for speaking to us. We just so appreciate it. And there are a number of people who didn't get to ask their questions. I will make sure I copy them and send them on to Sam, and either Sam or
Please
I
do
will
so.
try to answer.
Yeah, please do so, Ina. That's a very good idea.
And we are trying to record this. Again, I make no guarantees, but assuming that we're successful, we will be posting it online. And just thank you, everybody, for your patience with us, for coming today. And it was so good to meet you.
A reminder?
Yeah.
School budget vote, the ballots are due on Tuesday.
All right.
Before
Thank
5
you, Amelia.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's from a teacher and a mother.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
okay. We're going to end now. Thank you again so much, everybody.
Thank you, and I'll be in touch, Ina.
Don't forget the
Great.
parade at 1 o'clock.
That's right. That's right. Thank you.